Only two teams remain. Will it be a Stamkos three-peat, or will MacKinnon and the Avalanche reach the summit? We'll break down the Stanley Cup final, how they got there, and a little more news along the way, including something that happened in Vegas earlier today. Right now, this is Teal Town Live. And with that, good evening to all of you, all you hockey fans all over the world and in Sharks territory. This is Teal Town Live. This is live interactive hockey prognostication time, I guess you could say. So if you want to be part of the show, here's how you do it. Chat with us and fellow hockey fans all over the world on the page or the app for YouTube. And of course, follow us on the social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Reddit, Discord, and find everything at tealtownusa.com. Mr. Ian Reed, how are you? The flow looks beautiful, my friend.
Yeah. I'm good. All things considered, it's been a really rough couple of days here though, because like I've been just used to watching hockey every night in June, and I know it's almost over and I'm sad. Although it's not like it's still like it's not that terrible though, because like the Stanley Cup final is gonna go, and then I think on the 20th the Memorial Cup starts, and that's gonna be awesome. I mean, so there's still like you're getting to watch hockey like really late into the summer, considering we got it like all year. It wasn't like last year where like hockey started in like January or something dumb, and that's why hockey kind of went into the summer. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be another short off season. I think once we finally get back to normal, hopefully fingers crossed, next year. I don't know how I'm gonna deal with next summer, man, because like having like couple of months off of hockey as opposed to like 4, not bad, I'm not gonna lie.
No, it's been quite nice to kind of just go into mid-October, and then you have the end of the regular season in April, and now you're going to have the cup presented no later than the 28th of June. So you're going to have a little bit of time here and there to kind of get a breather before the draft. And spoiler alert, Ian will be on for drafting along with a bunch of others who
when is the draft?
That is July 7th. If you're not, I'll be doing the show from an airplane as I'm headed to London.
Well, there we go.
So
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, so
we always do.
The 7th and 8th for the draft, and then free agency on July 13th, and then
I'll be home. It'll be fine.
What do we say? The fake World Juniors in August.
Fake World Juniors, yeah, fake World Juniors in August. And I was going through stuff this summer, like, it's really not going to be that bad, all things considered, right? Like you got a fake World Juniors, and like, I mean, if you need hockey, it's gonna go well into like the season where it shouldn't. And if you're like me, like I understand, like probably some people are like, oh man, I just want to like get back to like get to baseball, and football start pretty soon after that, and but if you're like me and hockey's the only thing you watch, this summer is not gonna be that bad to go through the withdrawals.
So you're not a fan of the CFL?
No, I don't care, man.
Oh man, go Rough Riders. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, well, let's get to it, shall we? Of course, it's always good to see you, my friend. To recap the conference finals, man, after what Edmonton did to Calgary, I thought this was going to be a very interesting series. And how it started off was like, oh, okay. Another 8-6 shootout. But then Colorado,
locked it down.
Yeah, I mean, they really locked it down. I mean, what did you take from Colorado Edmonton?
I took from it that Edmonton plays in the Pacific, and the Pacific is ass. Because like I think Edmonton, getting there. I thought I give them full marks for getting as far as they did. I think that all things considered, Leon Draisaitl not being 100% obviously didn't help anything. And Mike Smith, I don't think he was terrible, but I don't think he was good either.
He had his moments, and I think you could say
Yeah,
he had his moments in all three rounds to get to
correct.
where they were. Um, but it wasn't consistent.
No, and if I mean you look at how much like again, you look at teams that probably you thought would probably be looking for like a goaltending upgrade, and God, you'd think Edmonton is one of them, but then you'd remember that between the two of them, I think they're making like $10 million between him and Mikko Koskinen. So, yeah,
Who already said sayonara.
yeah, who had already basically said, I mean, but the writing was on the wall there, right? Like he wasn't gonna get that kind of a contract again. I think his last contract was like 4.5 million, and he
Right.
wasn't gonna get that ever again. He's probably going to get paid really well to play over in, I don't want to say, what, Sweden?
I was either Sweden or
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
It's
I
one
think
of
it
the,
was
it starts with an
Switzerland.
S. Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those European countries that starts with an S. This is the kind of hard hitting journalism you come here for.
Oh boy.
Um, yeah. So I don't know. Like, I think Connor McDavid had a hell of a series. I think. I really think that Connor McDavid should have shut up a lot of his critics. I think in these playoffs until after the playoffs. I don't know if we're going to talk about that or not, but um, but yeah. So I think like Connor McDavid should have shut up a lot of his critics. I think showed that he is one of, if not the best player in the world, in my opinion, and I've been of that opinion for some time. But I think ultimately Colorado was just the better team.
Yeah. I think they had just a little bit more depth defensively. Even with Kuemper out, Francouz, took his game to a whole new level.
Yep. Yeah. And you know else who probably, I mean he's going to get a lot of love, but I think a guy who in my opinion like maybe isn't going to be very many people's Conn Smythe candidates, but like Cale Makar had a hell of a series.
Oh my gosh, he had a hell of a series. I mean, you talk about McDavid, but also Draisaitl. I mean,
Yeah.
hell of a both of them, hell of a run on their long on one of what the longest playoff run for the Oilers since they lost to Carolina in the Cup final in 2006. It now they got their playoff experience. I'm like, oh, watch out next year when they if they get in again. So Rangers go down after being up 2-0 on Tampa. Uh, Tampa, I think, what was it? Just a little rust that they had going, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shoot, wake up call time.
Yeah, I think the rest versus rest thing came into effect where I think that Tampa, even like even like a lot of their interviews after the series, they said they didn't play their best hockey in the first two games, and they certainly did it. But again, Tampa, this team again, like there's nothing they haven't seen at this point, right? So, and I said this in the preview too, like if you get Tampa down, like you better make sure that they are not breathing and buried and dead in the ground before you start taking a victory lap, because until this team is dead, they are not dead. If there's a breath left in them, they can come back. And I think after game three, I think they really kind of found their game. Vasilevskiy really started to lock things down again. I think Vasilevskiy is playing his best hockey that he's played the entire playoffs right now. And they frustrated New York. I think I give New York a hell of a lot of credit. I think New York, had a hell of a run. And I think, yeah, I don't think this is a pretender team. Like I think this is a team that's going to be, a team that's going to be a threat to go all the way in the East, going forward. Obviously they're going to have to, like every other team in the East, they're going to have to figure out how to slay this lightning dragon. But I think that they're going to be a serious threat going forward. The only thing that I kind of made me concerned, and it kind of bore fruit here, was the Rangers 5-on-5. I think they need to tighten up their game a little bit. I think they do a lot of relying on Shesterkin to bail them out.
Yeah.
And I thought Shesterkin had a hell of a series. I thought he was up to the task, but like they always say, right? Like your goalie can can make all the saves in the world, but he's not going to score you any goals.
Right.
And by the end of it, I think, Gerard Gallant going into Game 6 had to try and, get some offense going. And I don't like the decision to take Capo Caco out of the game, but
Yeah.
especially with how
that kid line was
hurt
awesome.
Ryan Strome was. I think that was an interesting choice to let him go. But I mean, credit to him to want to gut it out and everything. I'll give him credit, right? Like I think there gets to be a point where it's like, if you're that hurt though, are you helping or hurting?
Right.
And I think, Ryan Strome, like that's a roster spot for a guy who couldn't finish the game. And you're telling me a guy like Capo Caco wouldn't be a better fit in that situation. But I mean, overall, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they just woke up and they were the better team.
Mm-hmm. No, they all came together. Vasilevskiy went on a tear again. Stamkos with the pair of goals to get him into the Cup final. Just phenomenal work all around. I mean, I think Rangers fans are going to have nightmares of Andre Palat. There's that too. I mean, the Rangers were 20 minutes away from going up 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so close, but it stick taps to them for what they did.
Mm-hmm.
After Chris Drury did an overhaul with this team, it got them close. You got a great coach in Gerard Gallant. Yeah, Vegas, look what you did there. But I mean, I think the Rangers are going to be fine.
I think the Rangers are going to look at last summer when James Dolan decided to throw a hissy fit and went into the wrong side of the building, and it wasn't the side that said, it wasn't the Knicks side of the building. It was the Rangers side of the building on accident, and went in and just kind of did his thing. I mean, I pretty openly mocked the Rangers in the offseason about how, having an owner come in and do that. But I give Chris Drury a lot of credit for doing a lot of the things he did. They brought in some players that I think, that turned out that really worked out for them. I think Ryan Reeves worked out a lot better for them than I expected him to. Barclay Goodrow, I love Barclay Goodrow. I didn't like him at that money in term, but I'm not gonna lie. Like maybe there is something to that. Maybe I was a little off base there, and it's not because I don't like the player, right? Like, and that's the thing,
right?
Like, I love the player. I just thought, well, is that going to be a contract that hurts you down the road? And so far, the return is no. No, it's not.
No, I mean, you're not expecting him to be Panarin, but
no,
exactly. To be that role player.
And it's not like he makes a ton of money. Exactly. I just thought it was a little bit much for a player of his role, and I think he plays his role really well. Again, I really like the player. At the time, didn't like the contract, and there's a couple moves like that, and you're like, oh, I don't know. But they got a guy like Gerard Gallant in there, who look at the kids line was one of the stories of the playoffs,
mm-hmm.
and two of the players on that line in Alexis Lafreniere and Capo Caco. I mean, these are guys in the summer that I think a lot of Rangers fans wanted to throw overboard.
I think there are a lot of people that were questioning, okay, this Capo Caco hasn't worked out too well. Where's Lafreniere to be this megastar that we all expected him to be? You're like, so where are these guys supposed to go? And you heard about, we need to find a bruiser to beat up Tom Wilson.
Tougher. Yeah, we got to get tougher because, Mark Messier is James Dolan's best friend. He's like, the Rangers aren't a team that I want to be in an alley with. Well, hockey's not played in an alley. At least NHL teams don't play in an alley. Maybe I played in an alley growing up, but come on, grab your, I don't know, man. So I think I thought this summer that this was going to be like a super overreaction and toughness. And don't get me wrong, they did bring some sandpaper in. You bring a guy like Ryan Reeves in, sandpaper. Barclay Goodrow, sandpaper. But they didn't go all in they kind of made it sound like they were going to do. They gave the kids a chance to play and improve under Gallant. And like I said, I think this Rangers team's going to be a threat for a long time, as long as they can figure out, like everyone else in the East, how they're going to slay this Tampa Bay Dragon.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, no doubt about it. Especially in that Atlantic division. My goodness, I mean, we saw how tight it was, and overall the Eastern Conference. I mean, what all of them hit 100 points, so nothing to only one of them is going to get to play in the final, and they had a heck of a run too. So
yeah, and according to Twitter, I mean, to even go one further in the East. I mean, Toronto has had one of the best hypothetical runs in the history of Stanley Cup playoffs. So.
I mean, let's put it this way: is Toronto media saying that if Tampa wins the cup, it makes up for losing? We lost to the Stanley Cup champions.
Well, I mean, yeah, like and that's it's funny how how quickly like the narrative changes, right? Like for how much everyone crapped on the Montreal Canadiens last year, and justifiably so. If we're all being honest with ourselves, justifiably so. It's amazing how the narrative has completely turned now to being, teams that are in the Stanley Cup final or won the Stanley Cup final. I don't know. Yeah, and just like a tiger in the chat too, another player that was really stood out on the Rangers before we move on to predictions here. Keandre Miller had a hell of a playoff too.
Oh yeah.
Keandre Miller, when he was drafted, this is a guy I really, really liked, but I thought like when he was drafted, I thought this guy was incredibly raw, and it was going to be interesting to see. He was going to be one of those picks that was going to be like boomer bust, because he's either going to put it all together or he'd just, he'd have all this raw ability, and if he couldn't put it together, then that doesn't really help you. But man, he has put it together, and he's become a hell of a player.
Yeah, no, he looks fantastic. He's going to be, to me, he's going to be a superstar very soon. So, Marty, you wish, are the background teams the ones you guys are rooting for, individually cheering for? We're getting there. Don't worry.
We'll get there.
We're going to get to that right about now. So, with that, let me one more thing. Now, Oilers in telling Duncan Keith and Mike Smith to have a decision by July 1st if they're returning.
Yeah, I mean, look at
you need to know.
I mean, yeah, they need to know. I mean, look at let me bring up yield cap friendly here. Yield cap friendly.
You got you have dollars you got to figure out,
right?
And you also need to get a goaltender. Let's be honest here. Now that Koskinen's already, he's like, I'm not even going to wait for the Stanley Cup final to start. I'm already gone.
Okay, so I earlier in the show, because again, this is the kind of hard hitting, accurate journalism you asked for. I said Edmonton's goaltender was like $10 million. It's not. Mike Smith only makes $2.2 million. But still, I mean, obviously, if Mike Smith is going to call it a career, you'd want to know. Although I'd be really mad at Mike Smith if I signed him. Ken Holland's such an idiot. So, but I mean, he is, right? Because like if Mike Smith retires, like that's a 35+ contract. If he retires, you've just added $2.2 million to your $3.4 million of dead cap.
Are they one of the teams that's over?
No, they have dead cap because they have two buyout history. They have they have retained cap from Milan Lucic for next year at about $750K, and then you're still playing the James Neal buyout, almost $2 million there, and Sekera's buyout $1.5 million next year. So you'd add $2.2 million to $3.4 million of dead cap.
Oh,
like how does Ken Holland look at? I give the Oilers all the credit in the world, but like they did it in spite of Ken Holland.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many things, and like you said earlier, goaltending should have been taken care of in the offseason. Hell, at the trade deadline, to get some support, to not have Mikko Koskinen give up 6 goals in Game 1 against Calgary after you pull, Mike Smith, or Game 1 against, the Avalanche.
Now, if Duncan Keith retires, that would free up about $5.5 million in cap space.
So what you're saying, Timo Meier and James Reimer to Edmonton for Connor McDavid. I love it. Great idea, Ian.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
All right, so let's get to the Cup final right now. The schedule is out. So they're going to move quickly. Usually there are a bunch of 2-day gaps in here.
Screw that, man.
But
no one wants that.
So just Game 1 is Wednesday. And then they have their only 2-day gap, and that's kind of to accommodate with what ABC has for the NBA Finals.
Fair enough.
So Saturday is game 2, and then you go back to Tampa for the next 2 in the beginning of the week. Game 5, if necessary, on the 24th, and so on and so forth. And at the worst case scenario, or maybe the best case scenario for hockey fans, Game 7 would be on June 28th here. So let's get into it, shall we? So you have a couple of veterans in Tampa. Corey Perry playing his 3rd straight Cup final with a different team. You have Patrick Maroon, who's won 15 straight playoff series, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But they're not really the thing I was going after. This one's going to be like Stamkos, Kucherov, Braden Point is a possibility for Game 1.
Yep.
Most likely Game 2. But then you have Colorado coming back with Landeskog, Rantanen, MacKinnon. Will Kadri be back in this series? Now that becomes a speculation. And overall, it is skill versus skill. This could be the ratings juggernaut the NHL is absolutely needed. What do you take?
I hope it is. Like, I really hope this is a series. I don't again, because I think every time we think we're getting a series,
it turns into dud. Yeah.
Yeah. Battle of Alberta, it was just okay.
Yeah.
Edmonton, Colorado, I thought, man, inject that shit into my vein. It was a 4-game sweep.
Yep.
Right? I don't know. I'm just hoping that we finally get a series that kind of lives up to the billing. Because every time we thought, oh man, this is gonna be the series of the playoffs, it's been bad.
It's kind of been like in the other one too. Florida, Tampa Bay, we thought, ooh, extra side piece, Battle of Florida. Yeah, okay. That was a 4-game sweep.
Yep.
I'm gonna have you put. This is gonna be a theme here for the show tonight. You are a GM of the 33rd hockey team in the NHL.
Okay.
You have to pick one of the defensemen, Cale Makar or Victor Hedman.
Cale Makar is younger, and he's better, I think.
And he's better, even offensively, huh?
I think Cale Makar is a better defense. I think Victor Hedman gets. I like Victor Hedman. All right, I really do. But Victor Hedman has gotten to the point now where his name wins Norris's just by reputation. Remember the year that Evgeny Nabokov was just lights out, got nominated to Vezina.
Yeah.
And then who did he lose it to? Martin Brodeur.
Yep.
Because he was Martin Brodeur.
Of course.
Right? No, but that's what I mean. I feel like Victor Hedman's gotten to the point now where I think he's a very, 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 very good defenseman. I like Victor Hedman a lot, but I think that his reputation is maybe bigger than he currently is. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I get you. And like Marty T is saying in there, Hedman's kind of made out of glass. He's had some injury issues during the playoffs, and that's the other thing too. Tampa, while they are a juggernaut, you're welcome, Chris Johnson, for stealing that. I mean, you're playing an extra 60 games over these last 3 years for some of these guys. You wonder how okay Braden Point is. You know, and everybo's got injuries.
Oh,
right
I mean,
now.
everyone's banged up, man. It's the Stanley Cup final. These guys have both been through. Both teams have been through wars, absolute wars to get here.
Granted, they both have had a sweep in the series, and Colorado has
True.
too.
But Colorado, I need to go back and look. 'Cause I can't remember. I mean, look at Colorado has had to beat some teams to get here, right? I mean, obviously they swept Nashville, right?
Right.
But then they had to play St. Louis. Playing St. Louis sucks.
Yeah, that wasn't easy. You get them in 6.
Sure, but St. Louis plays heavy hockey. You don't get out of a series with St. Louis unscathed.
Very good point. It's kind of like what the Sharks dealt with Vegas in that one playoff series that we
Yeah.
try not to mention.
Tampa, Tampa, I think, the best playoff series so far might have been their first round series.
Yeah. And Race's Fan Rocks 4 absolutely saying that the best series this year has been Tampa Toronto.
Yeah. And then again, like 6 games with the Rangers. The Rangers have some guys that'll grind you down. You don't get to the Stanley Cup unscathed.
No, that's where your depth needs to come in. That's where
Absolutely,
like the likes of Perry and Maroon, among other guys. For Colorado, I mean, we talk about the big guys, Rantanen and MacKinnon and Landeskog, but Kadri's been lights out when he's not getting elbows thrown at him.
Yeah, but I mean, is he even going to play?
That's the big catch. But I mean, depth-wise, I mean, it's still a strong squad over there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're both good teams. Like I don't think either team has an advantage injury-wise. I don't think. It depends on how quick Kadri comes back, if he comes back, right? And same with Braden Point. What state is Braden Point going to be in when he comes back into the lineup?
Right.
Is he going to be 100%? No, of course not.
If you're 100%, you probably haven't been playing.
Right. If you're 100%, you're a black ace. Let's be honest.
And even then, you probably played in the AHL playoffs for your team as well. Now, the big question is goaltending. I mean, Kuemper is back, so I assume he's starting game 1. But Pavel Francouz, 6-0 in these playoffs. He's played dynamite. He had a couple of shutouts. I mean, not bad for a guy who's your backup goaltender, going up against arguably one of the best goaltenders in the world right now, in Andrei Vasilevskiy.
Yeah. Credit to Francouz, because when we were in the Discord when they lost their starter and Francouz had to go, and I was like, they're done. The Avalanche are done. Oilers, Lightning, Stanley Cup, it's over. My bracket's done. And Francouz, to his credit, was, I thought, great. He answered the bell. So I mean, it's nice to know that regardless, and honestly, I think he's been Kuemper's been a real mixed bag these playoffs, in my opinion.
But he's also dealt with some health issues too.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, definitely. That's definitely true. I think he's been a mixed bag though. But it's nice to know that if you're on Colorado, if they have to throw Francouz in net after that Edmonton series, you're like, cool. Like it's not gonna phase them. And I think that is a nice feather to have in your hat. Whereas obviously the Lightning, doesn't matter who their backup is, they're gonna live and die with Vasilevskiy.
Right. I mean, who was their backup? Ryan Elliott? Is that who it is? Yeah. I want to say yes. So? I want to say yes.
Does Tampa have? I don't know.
Yes.
Vasilevskiy.
Yes. Forget the backup goaltender. They're going to go 12 skaters, 7 defensemen. They're just going to have that extra defenseman just in case.
Yeah. I believe it is Brian Elliott.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think offensively and the forwards, they're pretty even. Defensively, I think you give a slight edge to maybe Colorado, but then again, it's tough to say Hedman and Sergachev.
Oh,
I mean, I think if Samuel Girard was in this series, I think you'd give more of an edge to Colorado. But
oh, man, I don't know who I'd give the edge to, honestly, on the D end. I feel like Tampa's probably deeper on the blue line, I think, but Colorado's. I can even say that. Their big guns are bigger.
Yeah. I mean, this is why this series is going to be...
It's going to be... Yeah.
We hope it's going to be fun and epic for sure. So getting back to that schedule, that means Game 1 will start Wednesday night. All these games, if you're out here on the West Coast, it's 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. if you're in Ian's land, 2 p.m. if you're Ryan sitting on the beaches of Hawaii. You lucky brat. Uh, so, let's get. Should we wait for prognostications now, or should we just knock them out right now?
Let's do it.
All right. So our picks. So AJ picked the Avs in 6. Kevin, who actually predicted the series before the beginning of the year, is playing Switzerland. He says there's going to be, it could be either one. I think he said Avs in 7 and Tampa in 6. Ryan, sipping from macadamia nuts and pineapple juice. 7 games. You can't tell I'm jealous that he's in Hawaii, can you?
No, you live in California. What the hell's like? No, poor you.
No.
Fuck.
Al picked the Lightning in 6. Mark picked the Avalanche on 7, and the rest of our crew is on vacation somewhere. So, all right, my friend, let's get your lotto numbers ready here, because it's time to play prognostication time. And boy, howdy, is this a tough one to call. Pick the team that's hoisting the cup, how many games, and who's your Conn Smythe Trophy winner.
Okay, so I am going to stick with my bracket because I've done it pretty much these entire playoffs, and for the most part, it's worked out. I think of all the series so far, I have gotten 2 incorrect. I got the St. Louis Minnesota series wrong, and then I got the Calgary Edmonton series wrong. Other than that, it's been pretty clear sailing. So I'm going to stick with my bracket. I have the Colorado Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup. Do I say that with a ton of confidence? No. No, I do not. Generally, when it comes to series, my usual method of picking is usually always comes down to goaltending.
Yeah.
And to me, goaltending is very, very much in Tampa Bay's, like by a significant margin. I think Vasilevskiy is the better goalie by significant leaps and bounds. So am I confident that Colorado wins the series? No. However, I'm going to take the Avalanche, and I'm going to take them in 6 games, although I think that, gosh, I feel like if you want to win this if you have to beat this Tampa team, like, I wonder if you need to do it in like 5. If you need to just blitz them and just never. I think the longer the series goes, it probably favors Tampa. But that being said, I'm still going to stick with Colorado in 6. My Conn Smythe winner, I would go Cale Makar.
Okay.
But I think there's definitely, you could make arguments for other players as well.
Okay. Yeah, I've been dealing with this all day. It's like, how the heck do you pick it? By the way, Hockey Jerk, hey, bud, good to see you in the chat. Bolton 6. Thank you, good sir. Appreciate it. Man, I mean, it's tough. And it's tough to go against the back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champions, hoping to become, the first team since the Islanders in the early 80s to win at least 3 straight.
Yeah, I mean, no one's won 3 straight in the Cap era. I mean, that in itself is a feat.
Yeah, I mean, and unreal. And as we all know, and it's been documented, Vasilevskiy has only lost 1 game. One time he's lost back-to-back games.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's why if it wasn't for Vasilevskiy, I'd be a little more comfortable with my Colorado picks. I think Colorado's a hell of a team.
Yeah,
hell of a team.
Yeah, it's man. I'm gonna go and say, as much as I am, I'll say this one thing. I will say. Game 7, overtime. I think we're going to finally get a Game 7 overtime for the Stanley Cup, and that will be the absolute chef's kiss to this playoff series, and it'll be Colorado winning it. Andrew Cogliano gets a cup. He'll be in 7 games in overtime. My MVP, I do like Cale Makar. I think MacKinnon's going to go off. I just think MacKinnon's going to go off. Milk Shark, I like it. I would love Cogs to get the cup-winning goal. Oh, man. So we'll see. So we're both picking Colorado very hesitantly. We're not going to do it like Kevin, who he's picked both. So there goes that for the Stanley Cup final. So that begins Wednesday. Hope you can do it. We're still tinkering whether or not we'll do Stanley Cup After Dark. I don't know. We'll see. Just make sure, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that notification bell to notify you when we do go on. And you will see me with somebody, me by myself. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a live stream during the Cup final. So, yes, I'm no Steve Dangle, but you know what? Why not? All right. So let's get to some of the news going on here in the NHL. And of course, as I was writing down some of the rundown, Ian, I was like, oh, where the hell are all the coaching vacancies? You know, they haven't even started filling. And sure enough, 2 hours beforehand, Vegas names Bruce Cassidy as their head coach.
That's hilarious because because it's funny that you mentioned that, because today I was off today, so I've been doing a lot of work trying to get just basically I have like little show skeletons for future Teal Tinted Glasses shows, and
Nice.
one of the information's like the one that I was working on was about the Vegas Golden Knights, and I'm like, just as I type, oh yeah, Vegas still got to figure out who their coach is going to be, blah 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 blah, and then I look over at my Twitter feed, and then it's like Bruce Cassidy hired as the new coach of the Golden Knights. I'm like, oh well, guess I'll change that.
So the Teal Tinted Glasses, I don't want to say curse, but the irony of the Teal Tinted Glasses with coaches still lives on, and he still didn't do the show.
Without I didn't even have to do a show. I just had to like put a future show, kind of the skeleton of a future show together, and boom, Bruce Cassidy, head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights.
I think it fits.
Yeah, so Bruce Cassidy's an interesting one for me because I think that he is not a player's coach, right? So I think that there's a lot of people going, well, why would Boston get rid of this guy, especially after they apparently told him he was safe? And now I'm not an insider for the team that I cover, so I'm sure as fuck not an insider for the Boston Bruins, but based on, like, I have a theory based on just some of the scuttlebutt and some of the stuff that I've read. I have to wonder if Bruce Cassidy, as good as a coach as he is, and I really like this hire for Vegas, and I'll get into that in a second, but I wonder if they told him he was safe and then they did exit interviews and enough players said, no, I'm done with this fucker. That's why they changed course. Because I think if you look at and again, this is all scuttlebutt. I don't know anything. I am not an insider. I am not, I'm just, again, speculation. I would like to think intelligent speculation based on things that I've read, just following along. And I wonder, if you look at guys like, like Jake DeBrusk asked for a trade. And I've heard that Cassidy is really hard and really chafes with younger players. Now, so when people were like, oh, I hope the Sharks fire Bob Bugner and bring in Bruce Cassidy, I was like, why? Like, I mean, I guess it would be better to chafe with younger players than just not play them at all. I mean, that would probably be an improvement. But
just one level up,
But I think that I just wonder if it's a situation where maybe he just, because he is a hard guy to play for, and I wonder if he just lost the room. And I wonder if in exit interviews enough guys came out and said, no, I'm done with this dude.
Do you wonder if they're like on the verge of making like massive changes depending on what Bergeron does? Because it just seems you hear the rumors about Pasternak, Marchand's going to be out for at least till January.
That's another thing too, and I wonder if the because of the injury situation, because of guys like Pasternak, who's, I can't believe how young Pasternak is.
Right.
Like, I feel like Pasternak's been in the league since like I was born. But no, he's only 27. Yeah, I think with guys like Pasternak and like Marchand being injured, not knowing what they're doing there, like I think there's obviously they're going to have to inject some youth into the lineup. Plus, they're cap strapped this offseason. Like next year they're going to get a bunch of cap relief, but this season they don't have a lot to work with. So depending on what's going to happen, with Bergeron, Marchand being injured, is Bergeron coming back? Is he going to retire? Is he going to go somewhere else? I wonder if that's the other thing I wonder is if it is true that he did chafe with young players a lot, and they know that a lot of young players are coming in. I wonder if that's why they felt, maybe that's the reason they felt to go in a different direction again. I don't know anything. I'm just trying to glean from impressions I've got from things I've read on Twitter, articles, whatever. So yeah, it's definitely, it's going to be interesting. Boston, they're fascinating. They don't have a ton to do this offseason. Like I thought, obviously Bergeron's a big thing and Mitch Marchand being hurt and stuff like that. I think they're going to be an interesting team this offseason, a lot more interesting than I thought they would be at first glance, but I don't know how much they can really do. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, that might. Yeah, and I see like Tiger saying Boston might try a Sharks retool.
They don't really have a choice. That's the thing with Boston is they don't really have a choice. Like they have to kind of ride this out for one more year, and then next summer is when they can really start taking a chisel. But I mean, this idea of trading Pasternak though is just insane to me. Unless he absolutely wants out. Like I don't know why you do that. If you do that, you should just take a stick of dynamite and throw it into the whole thing.
That will be interesting. And I see like a Tiger saying it's a retreads league, baby.
It most certainly is. Yeah, I don't know. But as for Bruce Cassidy on Vegas, I think it's a great fit. And I hate how much I like this fit for Vegas. It's Vegas, right? Like, obviously, as a Sharks fan, this is the worst. This is awful. I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been Barry Trotz, which could have been worse. But I think Bruce Cassidy, again, hard guy to play for, but I think that's what that team needs right now. They need a guy that's going to come in and, kick everyone in the ass and kind of get everyone pulling the rope the same way again. Because I wonder how Vegas, Vegas went into the season, they were going to try to use the long-term injured reserve. So like the fact that after the season they came out and they're like, oh, but we were injured. Like that was your whole plan, you fucking idiots. Yeah. Like don't cry injuries. That was your whole plan going into the season.
Precisely.
You can't cry about injuries when your whole game plan was, bend the rules on LTR as far as they will go.
It's like Tampa did it, so we can do it too.
Right. So I don't know. I like this for Vegas. I think it's a good hire for them. I think they're going to be, if they can figure out their cap situation this summer, again, another fascinating team to see what they're going to do and who has to get thrown overboard. But I think that Bruce Cassidy will squeeze everything he can out of whatever team that Vegas Golden Knights team puts on the ice next year. And it's going to be a good team.
It's going to be a good team. It's going to be an interesting team. How hungry are they going to be?
I think there's going to be, they have to. I mean, this ownership doesn't screw around.
This is year 6. They said they wanted to win the cup in their 6th year, by their 6th year. So this one's going to be interesting. It'll be. There's like, well, they're in cap hell. There's no way they're going to get out of this. There's something, It's not like.
Yeah, but that seems still like as long as they can fill in with depth, it's the depth that's going to be interesting, mm-hmm. right? Like obviously, as long as they're not playing with like 13 forwards every night, they'll be fine.
All right, so Vegas gets Bruce Cassidy, but there's still a bunch of others out there. Cassidy was linked to, according to Elliot Friedman, Vegas, Dallas, Detroit, Philly, Winnipeg. Outside of Dallas, those are like numbers of Barry Trotz. There's been talk about because he's from Manitoba. Philly would be a good fit. Obviously, Detroit could also be in it. Jim Montgomery, former Shark, former head coach of the Stars before he stepped down. He's getting looks at from Winnipeg and Boston. I've heard Jay Leach, another former Shark.
And good for him. Like if Jim Montgomery has got his life together to the point where he can coach again, I mean, good for him.
And he's getting the calls too, which is nice.
Which is good, right? Like hopefully, like I said, the man has his demons. Hopefully, hopefully he's got his demon. If his demons are under control and he can do it, like I think he absolutely deserves another kick at the can.
For Philly, Torts, Rocket, Rick Tocchet, who else? I mean, Trotz.
Peter DeBoer, I think I've heard for Philly too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be interesting. Oh boy, I don't know about that one.
Sorry, Carter Hart. Martin Jones is going to start all the games.
Ian's hair should be worried. Very, very worried. But I mean, now that this one domino has fallen, do you just think that there's just going to be more coming now in the next couple of days during the Cup final? Because it just seems weird.
I think it might quiet down for the Cup final because the NHL hates when people do stuff during the Cup final. Like, I think Bruce Cassidy getting announced today before the series starts. I think once tomorrow starts, I think it's going to get really quiet on that front again. And then because the NHL doesn't like when teams start announcing this stuff.
I'm just curious when Pete DeBoer is named the head coach of the Dallas Stars. And all of a sudden, people are going, "Oh, you gotta trade Brent Burns over there now. He can be with his buddy Joe Pavelski to rekindle that."
Oh yeah, but to get the band together in a different city,
And Klingberg, there's your
Forget
exit.
the fact that the average age of the band is like 39.
So that's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Is it regrettable that the Sharks don't have a GM to go out and find one of these coaches? Because I mean, this is probably
because you have to fire a coach first. Like, much
yeah.
as I hate Bob Boughner's still the coach of this team. Like, I don't. Is it regrettable? Maybe, but like, look at all the vacancies.
Yeah.
How where does San Jose rank on the appeal meter for all these vacancies? Like, you're not gonna get Barry Trotz to come into San Jose to coach this team that is still in shambles, and at least look at maybe smarter hockey people than me can see it, but I don't look at this team and go, yeah, there's a couple pieces and they're Stanley Cup contenders again. Like, no, this team is on the downswing, not the upswing. Like, I think if you look at Detroit, I think would be an interesting one to go to because you're hoping that Yzerman's going to continue working his magic, and you're going to suffer through some rough times, but then you're going to get back into it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think in San Jose you don't even have that.
Yeah. No, you are starting with the bare bones, and Tigers
there's don't get me wrong, like I'm excited about a lot of the players that are going to come into the system next year,
mm-hmm.
but let's not pretend like this team is like those guys are just going to go to the Barracuda for a little bit, come up, and San Jose is a Stanley Cup contender again. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and of course the GM will want to have that say in there, so it's kind of unfortunate that it's going to happen, but at the same time, Bob, this is your chance. This is probably your last chance to knock it out of the park. But it's tough to do that with the roster that you currently have.
I think, and if you're the new GM too, like if you come into San Jose as the new GM, I'm not firing the coach right away. I want to make something very clear here. I do not like Bob Boughner as a head coach. All right? This is not me defending the virtues of Bob Boughner as a coach. If you've been around here for a while, you know that Bob Boughner is possibly the least favorite coach we've ever had in my whole time doing this show, which is a long time now. Yeah. We've had a few coaches.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that disclaimer aside, if you're the new GM, like you've got a few freebie bullets in your gun. Firing the coach is one of them. Are you going to use that right away?
I think you like who is it? Who wants to come to the scapegoat, become a scapegoat? I think you give them a chance, but if it just gets ugly early, who knows?
Yeah, if it gets ugly early, you fire him, and then everyone pats you on the back for doing it. and you're still the good guy. Like, you still have time to become hated by the fan base. I would fire Bob Bugner tomorrow, but I understand them waiting for a new GM to come in. And I think, look at this point, man, it's patience. I understand that in this day and age when we can have, any information we want at our fingertips at any time we want everything to happen right fucking now. I understand people being like, how is Bob Bugner still the coach? I get it. I don't want him here either. But let's let this process play out. See where it goes.
And that's, I think everybody's just like waiting for that other shoe to drop. It's like, okay, you start off with like 30 to 40 candidates for the Sharks GM position. Now it's reportedly, according to Elliot Friedman, 3 to 5. You had Pierre LeBrun mentioning that there were interviews with 4 to 6 people. We've heard Shang Peng say that only one of the teams or one of the candidates has GM experience. And then, of course, we've heard from a source saying you shouldn't believe everything yet. And the candidate that I hope that's out there, Matthew Darsh, former Shark, former Worcester Shark, with Tampa, the AGM in Tampa. I think he's still busy with the Lightning right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because usually you don't get to talk to these people while they're still playing. Maybe they have. I don't know. And that's the thing. I don't know. Man, I'm telling you right now, like, the Sharks, for better or worse, like, you will have an easier time trying to figure out the recipe for Coca-Cola than actual information from this franchise.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so, like, there's so much speculation, and like look at some of the names that have come out have been super underwhelming to me. I'm at the point now where I'm like, just tell me who the GM is and then I'll analyze it then. Like, I'm not playing this, oh, maybe it's this guy, maybe it's that guy. Well, this person said, like, I just don't care. Like, we've gotten so little real information about this process that I don't care. Just tell me when it's over.
Yeah, not gonna lie, AJ and I were supposed to start to sing the I don't want to say the demolition of the excuse me, can't say jumbotron, center hung scoreboard at the Shark Tank earlier this week, and I was like, oh, hey, is Becker available? We can kind of get anything out of him. I mean, as much as you guys all know, Ray Whitney's my boy for all years he's been in San Jose in the NHL. I'm not sold on him. Mike Greer, everybody talks about, well, the family has GM
At least Mike Greer's doing something in hockey ops. Like, I don't mind. Like, I don't hate that name, right? Like again, there's some names that have been in there, and I'm like, oh, that could be interesting, right? I heard another name that I thought was really interesting was Megan Chaika.
Yeah.
Who runs a really successful analytics company. And I know some people are analytics, fuck that. But like, I thought that was an interesting pull for a GM candidate. Like, I don't hate that. No. Right. Like, Ray Whitney, he's in player safety. He hasn't had any front office experience. I don't want a guy coming in who's never been in a front office, because for two reasons. One, you want somebody to come in with, enough knowledge to hit the ground running.
Right.
Two, I don't want to sit here every show going forward until, like, when the Sharks are bad and being like, oh, this guy has no experience, he's just a puppet for Joe Will. Like, I don't want to read that.
No.
For fucking
every
chat every time the Sharks lose.
Yeah.
Oh, this GM's just a puppet for Joe Will, and it's the Illuminati running the team. Like,
yeah, that's the last thing I think anybody wants, especially after the last few years. If it to be a Joe Will puppet.
It drives me crazy, right? Because if Joe Will wanted the job, he'd have the job. Trust me.
Right.
If Joe Will wanted this job, he would be the GM, and that would be it.
Yeah.
He doesn't want it. He's not looking for someone to puppet master. I know it's much easier to be angry at the team when it's the nefarious Illuminati of front office people really pulling the strings. But I don't know, man.
All right. Before we go, well, since I got you all riled up, you were just named Sharks GM. What's your first move?
firing Bob Boughner.
Damn, I didn't know you hated him that bad. Holy crap.
Yeah, I'd fire Bob Boughner. And then I'd trade Brent Burns.
Okay. All right.
And I'd start, yeah, I'd probably trade Brent Burns because, yeah, it's going to make my team crappier to begin with, but I still think you could get a decent return out of him, even if you have to retain a little cap. Like I would start really, it's time to start getting rid of the legacy veterans that, you ride another year of Vlasic's career and then you buy him the fuck out. And then you hope that all these kids that Doug Wilson Jr. is bringing in come and start forming the next wave of this team. You've Tomas Hertl's here, so you start, you're going to start building around, guys with like Tomas Hertl being the guy at the helm.
Yep.
I think you probably keep Couture because I still think, the problem with getting rid of your centers is you need them. Right. So I think Couture would stay. I would trade Brent Burns. I would fire Bob Boughner. I think, everything else has already been kind of done. Like everything else that I would have normally sat here and everything else that I would have sat here and said, a month ago, it's already been done. Barracuda's got a new coaching staff.
Yeah.
There's a new look down there, right? Like, and that's something I would have done too. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you were mid thought there. My bad.
No, that's okay. I was reading the chat. There's okay, so Denver Doyle saying, I was worried that Joe Will was too involved in the process. Would he hire a guy that he doesn't agree with? I think, look, here's the problem with the San Jose Sharks, right? Is he's the highest guy on the pecking order right now. So for him not to be involved in the process, like, I think you'd want somebody to come in and, like, if I'm Joe Will and I don't want the big chair, then I want somebody who's going to come in who's going to challenge my ideas that are the status quo. Like, if you're not looking for someone to shake up the status quo, then why are you not taking over as GM, right? I think, look, if Joe Will wanted the job, I think it would be his. I don't think he wants a job. I think he wants a guy to sit in the big chair that he's going to answer to, or maybe he's going to go back and pay more attention to the Barracuda. I'm not sure. But to me, I think that I don't get worried about him being in the selection process. I think that of a guy who knows the Sharks organization and knows, has an idea. I think you want a guy who's going to come in and challenge those ideas, though. Because if you don't, then why didn't you just take the big chair yourself?
Yeah.
Free agency's going to suck this year, Larry. There's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
There's very little there. Free agency, like, I would, obviously, depending on how the Kane thing works out, you probably want to, you're going to want to spend that money. I don't think you're going to get anything out of free agency that's going to super be like, ooh, this is amazing. I would be looking for like middle six in free agency.
Kind of like last year where they went and got Nieto and
yeah, except that actually get
Cogs.
Middle six guys, not bottom six guys.
And Bonino. Yeah, no, I get you. The Sharks currently have $5 million at the cap. I mean, if the Kane hearing goes in favor of Kane,
well, then that's a nightmare too. And then again, because of the cap commitments you have, and if you have that kind of a penalty, if you have some sort of penalty, God hope it's not the full $7 million sitting against your cap, like,
right,
then you have to, then there's no point building up while that's happening. You might as well suck, accumulate draft capital, move some of these bigger contracts. Look, guys, like, we're not getting back here before you're retiring.
Right.
Let's talk about getting you somewhere where we might get a return for you and rebuild some draft capital so that you can do, a rebuild type situation where you can go back and be like, okay, especially if Kane's money is going to just murder you against the cap. Because if Kane's money is murdering you against the cap, like, I don't know what happens when you have to re-sign Timo Meier.
And that gets into all that for next season, which is going to be interesting. So a lot of fun speculation, a lot of interesting things that are going to be coming down the road. But at first, let's hope, a long, lengthy, multi-overtime game Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, like the early part of this, like the early part of the playoffs, overtime's like crazy, and now nothing.
And
let's get some overtimes in here. I agree.
And we only had like one multi-overtime game, right? The triple OT one.
Might be
the spicy pork and broccoli Louis Domingue game one.
I believe so.
That's no. We got to have more than that. Let's have a classic Stanley Cup final. Like I said, it'd be amazing to have a ratings boost for the NHL. So. With that, in case you missed it or you want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio. Of course, smash that subscribe button, and always available at tealtownusa.com. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that AJ spoke to Drew Remenda, so you can check that on the YouTube channel, and we finally got the Teemu Selanne Mick Magoo story out of Remenda. I've been begging AJ to ask him for years to do that, so that one came out really good, and it's hilarious. So,
yeah. Also, if you ever wanted to hear a Sharks podcast talk about a completely different team for almost an hour,
yes,
Glass Steel Tinted Glasses is also available if you haven't checked that out yet. Me, Jerk, and Lacey looked into what we thought might be next for the Pittsburgh Penguins. The next Steel Tinted Glasses will be soon. TM, I haven't set a date yet, but we have, like I said, I've been working on like little show skeletons, so I have like a bunch of shows kind of ready to go. It's just an issue of making all our schedules align and getting on air. So stay tuned for that soon.
I can't wait.
Trademark.
Of course, I love it when you three guys talk hockey all the time, and looking forward to it. Your final thoughts, Ian, as we get out of here.
Final thoughts. Geez, I don't know. I mean, I just hope it's a good series, man. Yes. That's all I want. I just want a good series, because every time I've been like, oh man, inject this series in my veins, they've been kind of letdowns. So a good series. Hopefully the Angry Canadian bracket will prevail. Yeah, I mean, can't argue with that. Yeah. Angry Canadian bracket. One series away, I think. I don't know if I can win it outright. I think there's another person who's tied with me, so it might come down to the tiebreaker. Or I'll lose if Tampa wins. So there you go.
Gotcha. He's at EN Blogs Hockey. I'm at PuckGuy14. Once again on the Twitter and the Instagram. Shout out to our friends in Stockton. The magical run for the Stockton Heat comes to an end. It was a 3-0 loss in Game 6 to, I believe, Stefan Nason and the Chicago Wolves. They advanced to the Calder Cup final, and it ends a 17-year run for pro hockey in Stockton. Of course, started early on with the Stockton Thunder, and of course with the AHL Heat. Of course, we'd be remiss if we don't remember the epic 5-game series between the Heat and the Barracuda. Mm-hmm. Ryan Carpenter still has the duty of being the greatest, scoring the greatest goal in Barracuda history. But it's sad to see a NorCal rival leave. Of course, kind of understand with Calgary, but all to cheers to the Stockton fans in there.
Yeah, sucks. It sucks losing your team, man. Like, I feel bad for the people in Stockton. Sucks. Yeah. Sucks. I feel for you.
In a gorgeous arena. It's like a mini Staples up there in my mind. So, tons of love to Stockton Sharks. Cuda, you know what to do. I've told you about this many years. Go out there and expand your brand. So, for Ian, I'm Eric. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for another Teal Tinted Classes coming up soon.
Trademark.
Stanley Cup After Dark, anyone? We'll just make sure you hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. Until then, thanks for watching. Keep it real. Keep it teal. Keep it real teal. Have a good night, everyone.